I want to welcome everyone. My name is Charles Thompson. I'm a presidential director here at Power. I'll be involved in much of the training and orientation programs once you become part of this amazing movement. And I want to welcome you to the Power Certified Real Estate. We call this the Renewable Energy Advisor webinar. And I'm very excited to introduce you to Power. We're a tech platform that's being called the Uber of clean energy. And we are on a mission to accelerate the adoption of solar on a worldwide basis. The purpose of the webinar is to help you learn how top agents are leveraging Power to sell more homes, to learn how to avoid losing a sale at closing when it has solar involved, to position yourself as a trusted advisor, and to create an additional revenue stream without taking the focus off of selling real estate. And with that framework, I'd like to introduce you to our host, but let me tell you a little bit about him first. Jim was part of a team that disrupted real estate back in 1999 with a company called Bamboo.com, or you might know them as iPix. Their mission then was to change the way the world viewed real estate, and they disrupted the industry by introducing 360 virtual tours, not only to real estate, but to the entire world. And in 1999, they had a NASDAQ IPO with a $2.2 billion market cap, had 100,000 agents join that movement, and generated more than $30 million in revenue year one. Well, it benefited you then, but this time it can financially reward you. It was a $6 trillion, now it's a $6 trillion industry versus a $2 billion industry back in 1999. With that said, I'm honored to introduce the amazing man who will share his vision on how you can be an important part of this world-changing disruption. Our president and co-founder, Mr. Jim Bunch. Jim?
Thank you, Charles. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to connect with everyone. I know we've got a packed house today. So what I'd like to do is to start off with a question that I've been asking people across the country. And what's interesting is about 2 years ago, I did an East Coast tour in the United States in 9 cities. And I asked the same question. I said, how many of you believe that we are going to have a shift of energy from dirty to clean? And at the time, the audience raised their hand, and it was about 20 to 30% of the audience a few years ago said, yep, we're moving to clean energy. And now, when I went back this past year to the same cities, obviously different people, but I asked the same question. I said, do you believe that we're going to have a shift of energy from dirty to clean? I was blown away because 100% of the people in the rooms raised their hand. And I thought, what an amazing time that we live in, that we as humanity have made the decision that we're moving to clean energy. And I started thinking about, what's the ripple effect? What can we do to truly create a massive impact in the world? So our stated mission, as Charles said, is to accelerate the adoption of clean and solar energy worldwide. And I want you to just grasp how big of a vision that is, that, in the past, we've considered sun and wind and water to be an alternative fuel, right? So somebody convinced us that that's the alternative. And yet I think that it should be the primary and burning something should be the alternative. Now, it's just my belief, right? Everybody has their sets of beliefs. But we have a vision to panel 2 million homes with solar by 2025. That's not that far away. And when we do that, that's going to pay out commissions of over $2 billion to our partners. Now think about that. This is already happening. We know it's happening, right? And we believe that this is what the future of real estate is going to look like. We believe that we're going to see panels on every roof, that it makes sense. We're going to see electric vehicles. We're going to see smart products like turf products, smart appliances, LEDs, energy storage, and energy efficient controllers. That's what we see coming down the pipeline already. And to give you an idea of just here in the United States, how big of this opportunity is, and since you're in real estate, this may make sense, but I would ask you, how many homes right now are there in our 50 United States? Well, the math is pretty simple. There's 130 million homes in the United States that are plugged into our current power grid. Now, a little data here, there's 7,677 power plants that for the most part are burning fossil fuels to power our homes, to power our lives, to power our cell phones, the computers, the lights, our washers, our dryers, our everyday living, right? And of those 130 million homes right now, there are 1 million homes that are on solar. So there's 129 million homes that are not on solar. Here's the crazy statistic though. Right now, today, not with any future reductions in cost, not with any advancements in technology. Right now, today, there are 90 million rooftops that qualify for zero down solar. That means that today they would pay at the same or less for energy, but that they could own their own energy and power their lives by the sun. We think that's a pretty amazing statistic. And here's what I find also really interesting. And we're going to talk about why this is so important that we're aligning again with the real estate industry is there are 2 million agents just in the United States and Canada. Now, as you know, there's 190 to 196 countries, depending on how you look at the status of a country. But there are opportunities all across the world right now for us to shift to clean energy. And I can't think of anyone who is in a better position to help that transition happen and to make an impact and an income than the real estate professionals. That's the simple reality. And if you look at what's driving this conversation, as much as we like to say, hey, we want to make a positive impact in the environment, the truth of the matter is the homeowner is making the decision because it's zero down solar. It gives them immediate savings. It increases the home value. It fixes their energy costs. Now think about this. If you're a homeowner, right, and you're raising a family or maybe by yourself, whatever it is, isn't it nice to know what you're going to pay for energy instead of having this question mark or this guessing every month? Wouldn't it be nice to know that not only are you paying less, but you have a predictable bill and that eventually you will own your energy free and clear? You won't continue to pay for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years somebody else to give you energy. You will marshal the power of the sun. You own your own energy. So these are just a couple of things that the homeowners are telling us. And as an agent, as a professional, one of the things that we lean heavy on is educating the agents on the data that we're seeing. So for example, a national poll of the US homeowners of clean energy stated that 69% of the homeowners want more choices when it comes to their energy and electricity supply. All right, that's almost 70%. But 88% of the homeowners support renewable energy. If they had a choice and said, hey, I know I need energy, right? I've got a modern lifestyle, but I'd rather have it from clean energy than from something that is maybe creating some pollution or toxicity in the environment. That's a no-brainer, right? And 62%, over half of homeowners surveys said that they would be interested in solar for their homes. Now think about that. As a real estate professional, at the bare minimum, you have to be educated because there are 90 million owner-occupied housing units right now and only 1 million installs. That means that 89 million homeowners are in the process of moving towards sustainability, and we'll explain why. The top reasons that they're asking for solar is to reduce or eliminate their electric bill. It's a financial conversation, right? And as a real estate professional, it's important for us to understand the true cost of homeownership. You know, I find it amazing that oftentimes we'll talk about, you know, when you have a new client coming in saying, you know, well, how much home can they afford? When you start looking at their monthly payments, a lot of times agents will figure out the cost of homeownership with the mortgage, the PMI, the HOA. Maybe they'll figure out some other factors. But it's interesting to me that very rarely will they factor in something that can be $200, $300, $400, $500, in some cases $1,000 a month or more, which is more than a car payment, but they don't even think about it. We'll explain why in just a little bit. So number one, it's to reduce or eliminate electricity bills. Number two, it's an asset that continues to grow. Three, it's a solid investment. You get a guaranteed return when you see what the amount you're paying is currently for energy, and you've been paying, versus what you're going to be paying. Obviously, there's an environmental impact. And as we've seen in Puerto Rico and Florida, in Houston, we have seen that the incidence of national emergencies seems to be on the rise. It seems that the weather patterns are less and less predictable. They are creating more and more extreme circumstances. Regardless of what you may or may not believe the cause is, the reality is we are in some uncharted territories. and there are millions of people at a time that are going without power, and that simply doesn't have to be. In addition to that, it's really important that in the real estate industry, we're aware of the new laws that are being passed that require solar. So for example, in California, a new law was recently passed that all new construction has to have solar. And I believe that the final date, and someone can correct me in the chat if you'd like, I believe that the date is within the next 5 years, that all new construction in California must have solar. So my friends, this is happening. But even at the real estate level with Fannie Mae, they're now requiring appraisers to evaluate homes with solar. In the past, that wasn't the situation, but there are new forms that require that the agent and the appraisers have the knowledge of how to properly price these homes when they're going to market. So my next question here, and I usually ask this in front of a live audience and so I can get real-time feedback, but maybe we can do this in the chat. If you're an agent, and Charles, I may need your help with reading this because I don't see the comments from the chat yet, but ask yourself this question and maybe type this into the chat. What's your opinion of solar when it comes to selling homes? Now, as I mentioned, I have been on keynote tours for the last 20 years talking about transformation, talking about technology, things that change our lives. And that has gone the gamut from solar technology to human technology to robotics and nanotechnology to artificial intelligence to crypto. I've been fascinated by how technology can cause transformations. But when you think about it, when it comes into your industry, oftentimes if it's not understood, it can be a problem. It can disrupt our day-to-day of doing business. And when I was going around talking to some local real estate offices here, kind of doing my due diligence, and I was asking them, what's your opinion of selling homes? I found that there was some real polarization. Some people absolutely love the conversation of solar. They understand it, they get it. And on the flip side, some people were really negatively charged. Now, there's multiple reasons for that, but I want to talk transparently about the elephant in the room, okay? So why is it that agents lose homes or home sales because of solar? Well, the number one thing that I noticed as I was talking to brokers and I was talking to agents, not just in California, but East Coast, West Coast, and around the world, is that, and maybe you've experienced this, there are times where homeowners are either unaware that they had a solar lease or they actually don't want to tell you the truth. And when they don't tell you the truth, I've seen it happen where an agent will come to a closing. They think that it's a purchased solar agreement when in fact it was a lease or a lien against the home. And nothing can mess up a close of a sale than surprise information at the time of closing. As a matter of fact, I've seen numerous agents who have lost deals, lost out on commissions because they simply didn't know to look at the paperwork. They trusted the homeowner to be educated, and in fact, the homeowner had no idea. They didn't know what they signed, or they knew it, but they didn't want to risk the sale of the home. So when we start diving in, that's number one, there's more reasons than that. You really have to understand that there are certain agreements that have already been placed on these homes that can cause liens. And maybe the buyer didn't want to pay for the system, right? So they bail on the escrow because they didn't want the lease on the panels. Well, here's the way we look at it. You should never get to a point in a conversation or into escrow where you have not had the conversation and gotten the paperwork, okay? You should never get to that point. So if you're losing a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 commission because you didn't know to ask, well, we can excuse that. But now you know to ask. You know that there are going to be situations where people have gotten liens on homes because they did leases. But that's easy to discover. So this is one of about 10 different things that are red flags that you can look out for. And the reality is, as more and more panels come onto homes, you're going to have more and more of these conversations. Now, the good news is this. The trend has shifted from a lease to a purchase. And therefore, when you learn how to price the home properly, when you learn how to explain to the buyer the benefits of solar, when you learn how to explain to the seller the new pricing that this will get on their home because of the added value, because there's no electricity bill if it's paid off at the time of escrow. When you truly understand the conversation, you can position yourself as an expert. Now, on the flip side, if you're not educated, and the homeowner is more educated, you're going to find that you're going to lose trust with the homeowners. And I've seen this happen. I have sat in meetings where homeowners have gone online. Homeowners have gotten proposals. Homeowners know more about the solar process than the real estate agent, and that real estate agent loses the confidence and trust of the homeowner. And you and I both know what that means. If you aren't the trusted advisor, if you aren't at least educated, you don't have to be an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to be educated enough to be able to advise the homeowner on where to go and what to know. So it makes sense that why some homeowners are bouncing around with their agents, because they're going, this agent isn't caught up to speed. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about when we start talking about our real estate academy, to help you get up to speed, to know the basics. And for some of you, if you want to learn more, we even have advanced topics and trainings around there. But one of the main reasons why homeowners don't trust that the agent knows enough is, well, number one, they don't. And number two, there has been this interesting dynamic as we've traveled around the world and talked to people. Most people know the price of gas. So if I were to ask you right now to type into the chat, how much do you pay for a gallon of gasoline when you're filling up your car, right? Maybe it's $2, maybe it's $3, maybe you're overseas and it's 4 or 5 or 6 euros, right? But most people know innately the price of gas. But when you ask people, how many of you understand the price of a kilowatt of energy, you get this blank stare. You get this confused state, like, not only do I not know it, I'm not even sure if I can figure it out, right? And here's the crazy thing. On average, most people in the United States who drive to and from for work will spend about $100 to $150 a month on gas. And they will drive to different gas stations to save a penny or 2 or 3, right, per gallon. And yet most of those same people are spending $200 to $300 a month on energy and have never thought to question their bill. Now, it's not completely their fault. Part of the reason is, and I'm giving an example of one here in San Diego, it's actually very difficult to read a bill. It's easy to read your gas station because they show you the price per gallon. It is very difficult for people to understand what are they paying, because A, it's hidden inside the bill, and B, there are multiple tiers based on whatever rules or game the local utilities have set up. So I find it amazing, and I was guilty of this myself. We just paid our power bill every month. We never thought about it. We never thought we had a choice. We never paid attention to it. It's like, no, you just, you got to have the lights on. You got to have the computers going. You got to do your, your wash. That's just what it is. But when you start seeing bills that go from $100 to $200 to $300 to $500 to $600 to $1,000 a month, all of a sudden it starts hitting people where it hurts. They start wanting to get educated. And again, if the homeowner is educated but the agent isn't, we're kind of caught off balance. So when you start diving into this, you realize that the homeowners are starting to get educated, but they just don't know who to trust, right? So there's an old belief that solar is too expensive. Well, that was true 10, 15, 20 years ago. But 4 years ago, solar reached what we call grid parity. And now it's cheaper for them to have solar and clean energy than it is for them to burn a fossil fuel. A lot of people think that they're going to be in some lifetime contract. That's not true. A lot of them think that they have to do a lease. That's not true. A lot of them think the technology is improving too fast. Well, there is some truth in that. The technology on the batteries is improving. And in most cases in the United States, the batteries don't quite make sense yet. We're on our way there, but it doesn't make sense. However, when it comes to the panels, we have had an 84% increase in efficiency. That's not going to get much better. So the price is already to where it makes sense. But here's the big one. They just don't know who to trust. And if people don't know who to trust, what do? Well, they go online or they ask their friends. But in my opinion, in my belief, with the 2 million agents out there, we could help these 100 million homeowners make the right decisions. And I'm going to talk about trust because before I started investing in time and energy and capital into the solar industry, because, I've not been in this for 20, 30 years like Charles and some of the other people on our team. I got into this because I had one of those wake up calls. And I realized that it was part of my responsibility to help build this company, to build this vision and this mission so that we, in fact, could leave the planet a little better than we inherited it. That was my initiative, right? I also realized, as any smart business person, this is a massive trend. And whether I got involved in it or not, it was going to be one of the largest trends we'd ever had in our history. When you talk about 190 nations making a decision to move to clean energy, that's a big deal. There isn't any other thing that I've ever seen where 190 nations got together and created a climate treaty agreement. But at the local level, which is where solar is made, they don't know who to trust. The homeowner does not know who to trust. And I believe that that trust should be between the homeowner and the real estate professional. I know that your world is changing. I've been around the industry for over 20 years. As Charles mentioned, we were involved in a technology called the 360-degree virtual tour. We changed the way the world viewed real estate forever. There was massive impact as a result. I believe that this is even bigger. I believe that this is going to be one of the largest transitions we ever see in real estate. And if I remember correctly, 20 years ago when that virtual tour happened, after the internet boom of the late 90s, the next big boom was the real estate boom. I believe that we're about to see a metamorphosis of huge proportions in every single home and every office around the world. And I believe that there's going to be a massive, massive shift, not only in climate, but also in finance. So when you start considering these conversations, it makes sense if you're a real estate professional to be in front of this conversation, to get educated, and to become a trusted resource. How many of you as agents find yourself saying this to your homeowners? I've got a guy or a gal for that, right? One of my good friends is the past CEO of Keller Williams. His name is Chris Heller. Chris was an agent on one of my homes here in California over a decade ago. We became friends. We became buddies. We've done business together. And Chris is the guy that I call when I need a trusted resource, right? Now, I know that he's got plenty of other things going on, but we all want a trusted resource. Could I go online? Sure. Could I read ratings? Sure. But that's missing the personal relationship. And I believe that the real estate agent still should be playing that role. I believe that you should be an expert not only in my home, but in my community, and who are the other businesses that I should be paying attention to. And that, my friends, is why we here at Power have developed a platform that is going to allow you to not only continue to be the trusted advisor, but to position yourself first in the marketplace. Because as I've already mentioned, there's only 1 million homes that have gone solar. We have another 89 million homes that are likely to go solar in the next 10 to 15 years. Think about that. Think about the amount of homeowners that you can be talking to, expanding your farm, deepening the relationship, getting referrals, all because this conversation is on their mind. It's hitting their pocketbooks, and it's across every major media station across there. There's nothing else that's going to make this kind of an impact in our industry. So we've developed a software platform that's being called a disruptive platform. Disruptive, by the way, is good. When you have technology that enters a marketplace and it's disruptive, it means it's changing it for the better. And here's the coolest news. We've designed this so that it's going to benefit the real estate agent and brokers massively. As a matter of fact, there are people on this webinar live right now who are real estate agents that have been with us for a year or two, and they are picking up more listings. They are selling homes for higher values. They're having open houses and pulling in tons of neighbors because they're combining the open houses with the solar conversation, the energy conversation, and we're seeing just a massive interest from our homeowners. So I want to introduce you to this platform because you now have access to the platform that can help you bring the homeowner a trusted resource. Here's how the platform works, all right? You, as the agent, are a 1099. All you have to do is input an address and a bill and then live transfer to what we call a solar provider. Now, the connection here is you input the homeowner's information. Our software suggests who are the best local solar providers. The solar provider, along with Power, will qualify that homeowner to make sure that it makes sense. Is their roof facing the right way? Does their electric bill, is their electric bill high enough to offset the cost of the panels plus still save them money? What are their financing options? What are the installation agreements? How does the maintenance go? And if you've had any involvement with solar, or depending on what part of the world you live in, you may have found some people who are world class, and you may have found some people who are actually one step above criminal. I'll just put it that way. And as a trusted advisor, as the real estate professional, I believe that your reputation is the most important thing. I think that that's what will separate you from everybody else, because we all know that there's quite a few agents who are vying for that same business. And those of you who are in the top 1 to 3%, you know that it's your brand, it's your reputation, it's your credibility that wins those listings and sells those homes. It has been, and it always will be. But when you start to recommend and refer providers, you have to make sure that you are recommending the top providers. And that's what we've done. We've gone out and we have built the new Power Grid, which only recommends the top 1 or 2 or maybe 3 providers in every zip code in the hottest markets around the country. If you find, if you dive a little deeper into the solar industry, as I mentioned, you will find some great companies, a handful of them in every zip code. You will also find a majority of them that do not keep their commitments. They do not deliver on time. They do not do proper customer support. They do not stand behind their products. This is all very critical, because if they don't do that and you're the person that they were asking for advice, that can put you in a really awkward situation. So let me explain how easy this is, because I know many of you are thinking, well, this sounds great, but I don't want to sell solar. We don't want you to either. We want you to focus on listing and selling homes, expanding your farm, adding value to the homeowners, which is exactly what this conversation does. So I'm going to show you in 60 seconds how easy it is to work with our platform. It's only 3 steps. Number 1, you simply gather and submit the homeowner's information and their electric bills. So what kind of information? Well, their address and their contact information, name, email, and phone number. Right? You're going to submit a snapshot of the electric bill. They can either download it online, or they can literally just take their smartphone, snap the photograph, and send it over to you. You can load it up into your system, or your assistant can. It's that simple. So step 1, gather and submit it into the Power Platform. Step 2, live transfer to the solar provider. It's that simple. Our system will pull up the best provider, whether you're in San Diego, whether you're in Maryland, whether you're in Miami, no matter where you are, we're going to pull up the best providers. You'll also see some rankings and ratings in there as to their performance. Step number 3, this is the piece that I believe the agents really need to focus on, which is staying connected to your homeowner. Once you submit the homeowner's information and then you transfer them to the best provider, that's the majority of your work with us. We take it from there. We qualify that homeowner to make sure that they're eligible for solar. Then we make sure that the appointment is held where they review the custom solar proposal. If there's any changes that need to be made, like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a battery, or hey, I'm looking to get an electric car, or hey, we're getting ready to change out our appliances or our LEDs. All of those things go into making sure that they have the appropriate system for them. But from the agent standpoint, these are opportunities for you to stay connected to that homeowner, find out how they're doing, ask for referrals. Hey, who else do you know that's that's interested in solar, right? You don't want to keep calling them back and asking, are you ready to move? You want to add value to them. And this is a way for you to stay engaged in that conversation. Once their contract, oh, by the way, when the appointment is held, we'll actually give you a commission. We will pay you a small commission just for submitting and transferring that home and staying connected to the homeowner. Once it goes to contract, the next stage is the permitting. When it goes to permitting, we will also pay you another commission. And when the panels get installed, when the homeowner solar project has been installed, we'll pay you a final commission on the project. So this process can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And that's a great way that top agents are staying connected to their homeowners and adding value. So my friends, that's the majority. It's a very straightforward conversation. The homeowners are very interested in it. And every single one of us has a role to play. If you yourself are a homeowner, talk to whoever invited about getting a proposal and go solar yourself. Go through the process. It's really simple. It's really powerful. At the same time, you can save money. Step number 2, become an advocate. What that means is that you'll have a 1099 license to our software. That allows you to be able to legally submit your homeowner's information into our platform and override the commissions that are being paid out through solar. Now, I know some of you are going to be asking questions, well, what about RESPA and things like that? In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to our Real Estate Academy, where we answer all those questions. And I'm going to walk you through the Real Estate Academy that we just launched to help educate you and inform you of everything you need to know in the 3 main categories that an agent has to know about real estate. So become an advocate. It's a $99 license for our software. That is for the year. Step 3, start taking our Real Estate Academy. As Charles mentioned, he is going to walk you through all of the trainings on that. It's a very powerful academy, and I think you're going to like it. So let me give you a quick overview of the 3 main areas in the Real Estate Academy. And we think this is going to be groundbreaking. We've already had a couple of agents that have given us feedback, and they love the information that's in here. So number 1, we have built the Academy with world-class training. My background and our company's background is in creating world-class teams and world-class training. And I think you're going to find the information is clear, it's straightforward, and yet it's very powerful. We're also developing a suite of tools that make it easier for you to market to your homeowners and use this clean energy conversation to differentiate yourself. And we have world-class coaching if you have any kinds of questions or need any kind of support. This is all a part of your $99 license, and we literally just rolled this new academy out this week. Now, the first step of the academy is to take what we call our solar foundation. And when you go through the content and then you submit your first 1 or 2 or 3 proposals, then you actually become what we call a solar power certified real estate advisor. That's a designation that you can use on your marketing materials, you can use on your business cards, you put it on your website, your flyers, whatever you'd like to. For those of you, and the foundation, by the way, I'll show in just a moment, covers the basics that you need to know, and I'm going to show you what that is. For some of you, you're going to want to be a little more advanced. This is a topic you want to learn more about. We have also included our Solar Mastery course. So for the $99, you get the foundation as well as the mastery course. And I think that there's way more value in that. So let me talk a little bit about what the foundation is. The foundation has 3 categories. And number 1 is the intro to solar. This is literally the basics. Number 2, the legal and financial that you need to understand, what to avoid in this conversation. And then number 3, the marketing. How do you use this conversation to differentiate yourself? So let me take you into the first section. In the solar section, we've got general modules on how do we power the grid today, how solar powers a home, how do you get charged for energy today, how does net metering work, solar financing, owned versus lease systems, and again, we talked a little about the 5 reasons the homeowners don't go solar, but there's a more detailed course in the Solar Mastery on that. The second chunk is the real estate specific modules, and this is what's relevant to each of you. How does solar really affect the sales and marketability and pricing of homes? Not the myths that are out there, but what's the truth behind it? The next chunk is how do you never lose a sale because of solar? You know, one thing that I know is very frustrating for agents and brokers, they do all this work, all this marketing, all this, sales, and then they get right to the end and they miss something and they lose a sale. So we handle that here. We show you exactly how to make sure you never lose a sale. How do you start winning listings because of the solar conversation? It should never be a surprise that a home already has solar. It's a great conversation starter. So you can position yourself as a solar expert and you can guide the homeowner through their questions, and that can be one of the value adds that you provide to them. And then we have some modules on the solar providers. How do you choose the right providers? How do you submit your first home? And then how do you stay engaged with your homeowners? All of this is in the solar section of the Solar Foundation course. The next area is legal and financial. what every agent should know about RESPA. There are some things that you have to know about RESPA. There is some gray area and there's some very clear areas that you should not be involved in. But I will tell you that we know 100% as a fact that real estate agents can receive a commission on solar. There's simply one time that I would avoid if I were an agent that you should just steer clear of, and it happens very rarely, but you need to be aware of that. That is inside the academy. Solar financing, you need to understand the lease and loan assignments and transfers so that you're educated in how to handle that up front. You don't want to wait to handle that because it is going to happen. I don't know too many agents that have sold quite a few homes that haven't had it come up, but you need to know how to handle it, and then it won't be an issue at all. The new laws that are being passed, and this is happening at the national and the local level. So we're constantly updating these materials to keep people educated as to what they need to know so that you're on the cutting edge and you're not lagging behind. And then of course, how to earn commissions on solar without losing your focus on selling real estate. I've talked to enough brokers and enough agents who are friends of mine to say, hey, I'm not interested in becoming a solar salesperson. I want to sell more homes. And I say, I agree with you. Stay 100% focused on listing and selling homes. But be smart enough to understand this is a trend that every homeowner is talking about. And if you're not at the table talking about this, I promise you, whoever's trying to win that listing away from you, they are going to be. So you've got a first mover advantage now, probably within a few months to a year, maybe, you will have to do it or you will be losing listings. It's just a simple reality. The next piece is the marketing. And we are building a library of tools from phone scripts to email templates to direct mail to blog and social templates, flyers, door hangers, sign writers. As we see more and more of these happening in the field, we're asking permission from the agents who are creating these if they don't mind if we share them. The reason that we find so many people are willing to collaborate on this is a very vision, mission-driven thing. We are literally preparing the planet to make a shift to clean energy. We are cleaning up the atmosphere. And I don't know about you, but I think that's worth committing and contributing a little bit too. And that's what we're finding is a very collaborative community, which used to be competitive, and now they're actually playing together. So it's kind of nice to see. In the training section of the marketing, we talk about how do you become a trusted advisor with homeowners. We talk about how do you use this conversation to get more referrals. How can you leverage this in your existing networks? And I'm talking about mortgage, title, escrow, anybody who's a service provider to a home. You know, if they know that you know about this, they will start referring you business also. And here's a big one, legitimate reasons to farm your contact list. You know, I've talked to a number of agents that are like, man, we just beat our lists up. I don't think I can send them another recipe book, right? It's not relevant to the homeowner. You know, I was joking with Chris Heller the other day. I said, you know, if you call me to tell me you're going to save me money on my home with solar, I'm interested in taking that phone call. But if you call me because you've got a recipe of the month, I'm going to go, Chris, what's going on, buddy? Like, why are you having this conversation with me? So make sure that you've got legitimate reasons to be farming your contact list, and that will help you eliminate that call avoidance that so many agents deal with. And then, of course, niche branding strategies. If you haven't looked at this as an opportunity for marketing, you really ought to, because it is a huge differentiator. And with the statistics we already showed of the number of homeowners that are wanting this, you want to pay attention. So we'll also share with you how smart agents are creating competitive advantages to win more listings. We have seen people, agents that are giving away prizes. We've seen them that are running open houses and having people bring their electric bills. As a matter of fact, one of them that happened in Florida had over 70 people in an open house. So they had a model home. They did a solar open house at night. They showed the home. They had one of our solar experts there to talk about solar. They had people bringing their bills. They had, you know, food and drinks and entertainment, and it was a huge, huge hit. So these are just a couple of the marketing ideas. On the coaching side, we've developed a real estate handbook to walk you through any of your questions. We've got weekly Zooms, which are live webinars for real estate professionals. We've also got mentor calls set up We're sharing best practices from agents around the country and around the world of how they're introducing solar, how they're handling objections, how they're marketing, and of course, statistics, how homes are selling for faster, higher prices because the consumers are interested in that. So in closing here, we also know that brokers are getting into this conversation. They're wanting us to educate their whole offices to make sure that everybody's in tune. Here's a couple of examples of some of our brokers that have been leaders in this conversation, and they are loving what's happening with their agents and of course with the volume and the homeowners. So again, we believe that everyone has a role to play in this transition to clean energy. Number one, go solar. Number two, become an advocate. If you've still got questions, reach back to the person who invited you here. We're happy to support you. We're happy to educate you. More importantly, we're happy to go shoulder to shoulder with you so that together we can do something that is truly going to change the course of history forever. I believe that this is not only our responsibility, but it's our opportunity to do something that we look back on and go, wow, just a few years ago, gosh, it was 10 years ago that the first iPhone came out. And look at the transformation that iPhone has made. It was a $500 iPhone with 4 gigabytes. Steve Jobs stood on stage, announced that. Imagine 10 years from now when we've gone from 1 million homes to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 million homes that are operating off of clean energy. And in closing here, I was reading some statistics the other day that we expect to have over 100 million electric cars plugged into the grid in the next 20 years. Think about that. 100 million cars that are charging their batteries off of the grid. We have to make this shift to clean energy. It's already happening, and I couldn't be more excited because in the future, you, the trusted agent, is going to be the one that they think about every time they turn on a light switch, every time they plug that electric car in and take their kids off to the park, every time that they get that electric bill that has dropped from $200, $300, $400, $500 a month down to a couple dollars, or in many cases, I've seen people who are getting credits on their electric bills every single month instead of paying $400, $500, $600. As a matter of fact, one of my good friends, Josh, just got his installs not too long ago. His electric bill was $600 a month. He's got a pool, he's got a pool pump, and his wife and he work out of the house. They run the air conditioner nonstop. It's here in San Diego. We've got extremely high prices. His electric bill last month, he shot me a picture of it, was negative $32. Negative 32, and he had zero money out of pocket. So we're seeing these stories every day. So join us as an advocate. Go through the Real Estate Academy course. It's actually a very quick course, but it'll give you the foundation. And if you want to learn more, you can do the Solar Mastery course. So that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for your investment of time and energy. And for the last 45 minutes, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. And we look forward to connecting with you. You're going to see the company power in 100 different ways over the next 18 months. And we couldn't be more excited to partner with the real estate industry. And thank you so much for your time and energy. This is Jim Bunch and the rest of the Power team saying thank you again. Have an incredible day, and we'll look forward to connecting soon. Bye for now.